What is up YouTube? It's Kingfisher745 and today I'm bringing you another best of the best, well in this case top 10 list because I couldn't narrow it down to 5. But what we're going to be covering today is the top 10 gold or limited edition items. And really I think this is going to be more than just a top 10 list because I'm hoping that it will help you decide which items to buy and also which ones to save your gold for. As always, this list is based on my opinions, but I will give you my reasons for each item. I would also love to hear your list in the comment section below and what you think about this top 10. How would you rank these items? In the last top 5 video, you actually gave me a brand new leveling spot because in the comment section you mentioned Chapter 7 Mission 6. So your opinions and your comments help me out as well. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the list. So starting at number 10, the Blade of the Guardian. Now bear in mind that any item good enough to make it in the top 10 is a very solid purchase, and some of these were quite difficult to place on the list. However, we ended up sliding in the Blade of the Guardian at number 10 because of its history, its placement as one of the great protect weapons, its buffs, and its potential use even in today's PvP. Because of that factor, it beats out the Coulson's Revenge, which narrowly does not make the list. Now to have this weapon, it's going to cost you 48 gold, but like we said, it is going to protect allies from single target attacks. It also has a chance to perform a counterattack when attacked, and attacks gradually grant fortified, focused, agile, and strengthened. Now once you have all these buffs, you're going to gain Blessing of Heroes. This will cause you to regen health every turn while it's active, then attacks are guaranteed to be critical hits, and it refreshes the duration of agile, focused, fortified, and strengthened. So that's why we have the BOTG on the list at number 10. Number 9. The Cosmic Cardinal. One of my favorite weapons from the past. This weapon with its special functionality was one of the great combo damage dealers. At one time it was an absolutely must-have for any fast-dealing, quick-action damage team. And it was quite good on defense because it was extra damage, and the AI didn't have to activate it. That means there was no way that they could mess it up, and it turned a quick lock team or anything similar into a very nasty possible first round winner. If one of your teammates is knocked out before you even get an action, that's pretty hard to come back from. Needless to say, this item was very dominant in the right setup. That is until that pesky Iron Fist and to a lesser extent the Wrath Shank came on the scene. Now don't get me wrong, this item can still be used. Like it says, it has a high chance of performing a follow-up attack when an ally attacks. It also grants cosmic energy to all allies, so this increases defense, restores stamina each turn, and stacks up to 5 times. Then cosmic energy in itself can be used with other items. So I believe it still is useful since you don't see that many Iron Fists on defense. Also, when attacking, just place off balance on him and you're good to go. However, he does appear quite often on attacks, so it may not be the greatest option for defense like it once was. So all of that lands the Cosmic Cardinal at my number 9. Number 8. The Deathly Freeze Ray. Now this is a weapon, well it's not the only one, but it's definitely one that could be argued deserves a higher spot. That's because in the right setup, basically with the Signpost, it can be absolutely devastating for the enemy team, especially once you get a few well-timed incapacitation procs. It will not only help you on offense, it's almost guaranteed to frustrate enemy attackers. Why is this the case, you may ask? Well, it's because of what this weapon does. First of all, it's an AoE attack, and it's going to cause chilled and brittle armor to all the enemies. So they'll take damage every turn, their evasion's reduced, and all attacks against these targets ignore defense. That's bad enough, but add in that it causes Death Frost on the agent, which lends itself to the Signpost. The Signpost says that the agent has Death Frost, it grants a massive bonus to accuracy and doubles healing power. Then the Signpost adds poison to your agent, which causes the Deathly Freeze Ray to have a chance to counter. It also will apply incapacitation on attacks. So you're getting an AoE counterattack that's going to keep applying incapacitation, chilled, and brittle armor. This ends up being amazing in PvP. So 64 gold, as long as you have the Signpost, you're getting your money's worth. Number 7. The Neuropurge. This is one of the few items and the first one on the list that gained an upgrade after it was released. Well, at least it's an improvement for most intents and purposes. Originally, this gadget was just a normal action, which means it caused counterattacks, protects, and so on. But after some complaints, including yours truly, it was made into a psychic attack. Yes, this means that in a few occasions it won't work, like against Juggernaut, as well as Magneto, and it's going to cause Psylocke to guaranteed preemptively attack. But I think that everyone would agree that this was a much needed change. Now, what are you going to get when you buy the Neuropurge? Well, you get a quick action item that's going to apply Off Balance, Migraine, Pressure Points, a 15% chance to cause despair, and a 15% chance to remove buffs. So first of all, it's a quick action, which are hard to come by. At least really good quick action items are hard to come by. It's one of the areas where farmable items are really lacking. Also, this is a gadget. That means that no matter what level you buy it, even if you're just starting out, it's going to be just as good once you hit level 300. For that reason, this and the other gadgets on the list could actually be moved up. They're going to give you the most value for your gold because no matter what level you are, or what level you end up at, they will be equally as good. Personally, I find myself using this all the time, especially because of Off Balance, which can really hurt many teams out there, and it definitely cuts down on Null's and Iron Fist's usefulness, for example. Then of course it's invaluable on Pressure Points and Paragon Exploiter teams. So for all it does, I would actually consider moving it up to number 4 or number 5. And I most likely would move it up if I did this list all over again. So just keep that in mind when you're considering is it worth 64 gold. Number 6. The Dragon's Foot. Another weapon that I found difficult to place, but I ended up deciding on number 6. Taking into account this isn't just a weapon that has counterattacks or follow-ups, it actually often translates into a very important buff. The Step of Sholau procs at the start of combat, and it causes all unarmed attacks of all allies to gain guaranteed hit and increased chance of critical hits. This can be extremely important, and there are a ton of characters that have unarmed attacks. Probably even more than we realize. So like I said, for this fact alone it's often a must-have. But for the price you're also getting a pretty decent weapon because it does have combo setup, it quite often procs a follow-up attack when you do use it, and the counterattack isn't too bad either. But in many ways it is going to depend on what type of team you're building. If you're an avid Quicksilver user, for example, you're going to need this item. It's fantastic for Iron Fist, Captain Britain, Juggernaut, and the list is way too long to mention. Plus, you know in the future they're going to release more unarmed attackers, so the list and usefulness are going to be ever growing. So for those reasons, I think this item is definitely worth picking up, especially if it's at a discounted price, such as 48 gold. But even if that's not the case, I would still do it all over again for 64. Then moving on to our top 5. Number 5. The Warbringer Axe. Now this one may be controversial, but I think when looking at the overall history of the game alone, this weapon certainly has its merit. This weapon absolutely dominated PvP for so long. It not only had to be nerfed, it was nerfed more than once. Even after all of that, it was still a worthy item. Now you shouldn't overlook the fact that it does have adamantium, so attacks ignore the defense stat, but they do not bypass shields. But by far the greatest part about this weapon was and is Warbringer. This grants Warbound to all allies at the beginning of the fight, and then they'll gain War Frenzy when attacked. This increases their attack and accuracy. This can be applied 3 times, and each stack increases attack and accuracy by 12%. Unfortunately now each attack removes a charge of War Frenzy, but it's not consumed on follow-up or counters. Now one of the first bad things besides the nerfs that ended up happening for this weapon was the fact that many items were added to the game that could remove War Frenzy. For a long time this wasn't something you had to worry about. However, I found great results when using it with the Scroll of Agnisac, and that way you could keep your buffs. So I believe it still is usable, but it's nowhere near the powerhouse that it once was. At least not in PvP, but by the way I do use it pretty much all the time in PvE. And honestly, this may just be me speaking with my heart, but I still think this weapon is worth considering buying, especially if you lack a high damage weapon. One of the great things about it still is it has no cooldown and you can use it every round. So for those who don't have the Hand of Apocalypse, I would definitely consider it for that reason. Number 4. The Neurotrope. This is the best quick action buff gadget in the game. Do we really need to say any more? Well, we're going to. Like I said, it is a quick action gadget that applies to all allies. First, it's going to grant them combat awareness, so they perform a counter against the next single target or area attack. Then it also grants them Epiphany, so the next attack is guaranteed to be a critical hit. And lastly, it has the Sun Also Rises. Grants random beneficial status effects to all allies. This can end up being all sorts of things from agile, focused, fortified, and strengthened to even regeneration. All in all, it is a phenomenal buff item, and like I said earlier, there are a few quick action gadgets in the game worth using. On top of that, these gadgets are good no matter what level you're at, and they will never need reforged. So for those reasons alone, this item is well worth its price. If you're honestly considering saving up for just one item, this may be it. It very easily could be placed at number 1. The only downfalls have come about more recently, and they would be Boonbuster, if the opponent has the Hand of Apocalypse, or they're using an Uncanny X-Force team with Boonbuster, then these buffs could come back to hurt you. And secondly, Combat Awareness could end up proccing Combo Breaker if they're using Iron Fist or Rafshank. Or I should also mention the Scrapper Safeguard suit, even though that isn't quite as bad. Obviously because it only lasts one round. So keep those things in mind, but I still wouldn't hesitate to buy this gadget. Number 3. That's right, we've hit the top 3 on the countdown, and after initially putting this item in the top 10, but I was going to leave it at the bottom of the list because we haven't had that much time with it, this incredible gadget was actually improved and made even better. Of course, I'm talking about the Weather Control Device. This weapon / gadget is a multi-function attack that has 3 different options. You can either use Action 1 Fire Tornado, it attacks all enemies, it's a quick action catastrophic attack by the way, and it applies Burning, Dizzy, and Exhausted. Then Action 2 is Hailstorm. It's also a quick action catastrophic attack that applies Chilled, Bleeding, and Winded. Then finally Action 3 Warm Zephyr heals all allies as a quick action. It also removes all debuffs, but does have a 2-round recharge. Other than that, you can use the first 2 actions over and over again every single round as a quick action. But they decided that wasn't even enough for your gold, because on the second use of Fire Tornado, it's going to cause Scorch to a burning enemy. Or with Hailstorm, you can apply Frigid to someone with Chilled. Scorched reduces attack, removes a buff after each attack, but it's consumed by ice attacks for extra damage. And then Frigid says quick actions become normal actions, executed actions become locked out for 1 round, then this is also consumed by fire attacks dealing extra damage. This item was a must-buy before the improvements, so after it is a definite absolute you should save up your gold right now and get this item. The only question we have is, will they release an E-ISO that makes you immune to Exhausted, and also is the next Tactician Safeguard suit going to have immune to Exhausted, which many of us think that it will. I don't know because that's in the future, but for now this thing is a possible cube replacement. All it's missing is reality hacking, but it is insanely good and already has shot up to number 3 on the list. Then moving on to number 2, the Demon Set. This is going to be our only set on the list. To be honest with you, I wanted to leave all sets off of the list, but this one has been way too important and it's way too good not to include. Specifically the Signpost and the Hotshot. Ever since the Signpost first came out, it has been an incredible quick action item. The fact that it's going to steal health from your opponents and give it to your agent every single round, well, it ends up being invaluable, and it even helped lead me to getting my first Adamantium hero, Cable. Now the other pieces of the set like the Fury and the Grief are very strong as well. The Fury has a counterattack, it causes Tenderized, and it's going to grant a massive bonus to evasion and applies Burning, Death Frost, Poison, and Dark Void to enemies. That's assuming that your agent has Dark Void, which is going to be added by the Grief. Then of course we have the Signpost, which reduces damage taken from dots, it drains health and stamina, and it's a quick action. It also applies Poison to your agent, which will come into play later. Next we have an extremely hard-hitting AoE weapon, the Grief. This causes Dark Void, and it says if you have Burning it grants a massive bonus to attack and exploit attrition. There were quite a few agents having success using that even in recent tournaments. Next, we have the Hotshot, which is one of the most influential items in this set. This absolutely dominated the PvP scene for many seasons. With the addition of the Relentless E-ISO, it kind of died down a bit, but it still remains a very impressive and important weapon. It is an AoE attack that causes melt armor and burning, and then if the agent has poison, which you get from the Signpost, then it grants a massive bonus to defense and a high chance to stun enemies. That triple stun comes more often than you would think, and it's an absolute PvP match changer. So in my honest opinion, the Hotshot and the Signpost are the stars of this set, and if you're ever able to buy them individually, then you definitely should. The only other set really worth mentioning or considering is the Horseman set, so I do want to throw that one out there as well. So there you have it at number 2, our only set on the list. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, number 1. This item wasn't originally a gold item, but it was later placed on sale for 128 gold. Of course, the number 1 spot had to go to the Synthetic Cube. This item has been an absolute no-brainer for one of your 4 equipment slots pretty much ever since it came out. Most agents won't even think about removing it. It's almost worth it for reality hacking alone. But it also adds so many different options when taking it into battle. First of all, starting out in combat, you have access to the Blackest Void. This is a debuff on all enemies that removes beneficial status effects and causes disoriented. So complete buff removal, even the Mystic Shroud, and you cause the enemies to attack each other? Well, sign me up right there. And this is just the incredible first effect from the Synthetic Cube. During round 2, you're given access to the Light Fantastic, which is a full team heal that restores a small amount of health, but more importantly it removes all harmful status effects and causes the next attack to restore health instead of causing damage. The debuff removal pretty much ruins a ton of different teams and their setups, but not only that, it helps you survive and gives you an insurance effect due to mirror reality. See Havoc over there? Well, he can one-shot anyone on our team, but with mirror reality, all he's going to do is heal us. That's pretty ridiculous. But that's only the second action out of 4. Moving on to the third round action, the Improbability Field, it's going to cause pressure points debuffs and Chaos Shot, essentially putting tons of debuffs on the entire enemy team. Then the reverse of that, it's going to give your team Rising Up and Build Up, so you can cause any of the listed debuffs and gain any number of the listed buffs on the tooltip. By the way, not only does this help your team and debuff the enemy, it sets up the final function of the cube. For action number 4, the Atom Smasher. It's an AoE catastrophic attack that has Exploit Attrition and Paragon Exploiter. If it's set up properly, it can be a full team clear and one of the few ways that you may be able to end a long drawn out battle. Because of all these incredible functions, not to mention reality hacking, the Synthetic Cube has stood at the top of the list ever since it came out. The reasons that you would have to have for not using this item are actually difficult to come by. For that reason, like I said, usually it's a mainstay on your equipment bar, and that's not likely to change anytime soon. So in short, yes, it is worth the hefty price tag of 128 gold. There you have it, all 10 items on my top 10 gold items list. I really hope you enjoyed it, and like I said, I would love to hear your opinions in the comment section below. Also, I'm hoping that agents can use this as a guide for what to save gold for and what to spend gold on. So please share this video, leave a like, and hit that subscribe button as it greatly helps out the channel. Lastly, thank you all for watching, good luck, and take care.